Hometown Ghost Stories contains serious and often distressing events and is not intended for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
There is no story about a cursed possession more curious than the legend of the Basano Vase. It's currently missing. Its origin is unknown, and it's seemingly cursed without explanation, but has left a trail of horror and death in its path throughout history. I'm Dave Wilkins, and this is Hometown Ghost Stories, Cursed Possessions, the Basano Vase. From what's commonly known, the vase was a simple silver design, weighing approximately 4 pounds, and was crafted sometime during the 15th century as a wedding gift. The earliest known account places the vase in a village just north of Napoli, Italy, in the 15th century. Legend has it, it was originally given as a wedding gift to a young bride-to-be on the night before her wedding. Some say it was a gift from her would-be husband, some say it was a friend or a relative. The truth is lost to history. Now, some will argue that it's bad luck to give a gift before the wedding ceremony. Others will say it's not, depending on different cultures and customs. Some say it was just a harmless gift, and others say it was a nefarious gesture, or even a curse. But whatever it was, on the morning of the would-be wedding, the young bride was discovered dead on the floor, clutching the vase in her cold hands. Her cause of death? Unknown. Immediately after her death, the vase was taken by a close family member to the bride. This family member was also found dead shortly after taking possession of the vase. It was then taken by another family member who met the same fate just a short time later. At this point, the family made the connection and either hid the vase away or buried it. Accounts vary. Regardless of which account you believe, the vase remained hidden for centuries and didn't resurface again until 1988. It was found on accident by a young man who was unnamed somewhere in Italy. Now, this is the part of the story, if you're like me, you've started to get frustrated by the fact that there isn't a single name associated with anybody involved. At least, not up to this point. But don't worry, it will get worse. So the young man who found it was doing some gardening in his yard, and as he was digging, his shovel struck something hard. But it wasn't just hard, it actually made a metal-on-metal sound. So, enthusiastically, he cleared the dirt around it to uncover a very old vase. Once he fully extracted it from the ground, he cleaned it up and noted that it was most definitely made out of silver. Jackpot. He was delighted with this discovery until he looked inside. It had been buried with a note that read, "Beware, this vase brings death." Apparently, this warning meant absolutely nothing to the young man, because he immediately auctioned it off for 4 million Italian lire, which translates to about $2,500 US at the time. It was purchased by a pharmacist, whose name surprisingly remains unknown, and the young man who discovered it is one of the few owners of the vase who weren't actually killed by it, that we know of. The pharmacist held on to the vase for a record 3 months before he met his untimely demise, and his family then sold the vase to a young doctor who had no name. Dr. Nobody had the vase in his possession for less than 2 months before he died at the age of 37. His family then sold the vase to an archaeologist who was a collector of historical artifacts. He saw the vase and just had to have it, and the family was more than happy to oblige him. The archaeologist's name remains unknown, but shortly after he bought the vase, he began feeling sick. The sickness slowly got worse, and his symptoms began to grow more and more complex over time. Eventually, he died, and his cause of death was a mysterious infection. It was mysterious and nameless. He died within 3 months of acquiring the vase. The vase was sold one final time to a nameless man who died within a month of purchasing it. His cause of death is also unknown, but we know that a member of his family who had connected the dots regarding the deaths surrounding the vase took it and tossed it out of a window. Another family member asked him just what the hell he thought he was doing, and he replied, "It's cursed. The vase is cursed." Just then, there was a knock at the door. He opened the door and found himself staring at the vase that he had just tossed out of the window. It was back. It was in the hands of an angry police officer. Apparently, when he tossed it out the window, it struck the cop, who was none too pleased. The man accepted a fine, but refused to take the vase back. The cop was stuck with the vase. The nameless police officer reached out to a nameless museum in an attempt to find a home for the artifact. But news had spread about the vase, and the museum wanted no part of it. I find this strange, because there are museums all over the world that have cursed items on display. They're usually behind glass cases, plastered with warnings, but I can't imagine a museum turning down a 5-century-old artifact. But what do I know? This vase has a pretty serious body count. The Basano Vase is said to be once again reburied in an undisclosed location. Some say it's in a lead box, others say in the holy ground of a cemetery. Others say both. But the truth is, nobody knows where it is, so it's hard to tell what the deal is. Is it cursed? If so, the cause of the curse is unknown. What is known, or most commonly accepted as fact, is that it was made out of silver, a material that usually represents good in parables of good versus evil. Silver to ward off vampires, silver bullets to kill a werewolf, and so on and so on. So it's unusual to hear about silver carrying something so negative and malignant as a curse. If not a curse, it could have some kind of poison on it, but unadulterated silver is harmless to humans, so if it were poisoning people, it would have to be coated or mixed with something when it was made. But what kind of poison would remain so effective for over 5 centuries? The skeptical answer seems obvious, that the deaths were just coincidence, but for me, that is way too many deaths to be brushed off as coincidence. It has to be something, be it a curse or poison, but for now, the Basano Vase is lost to mankind, and hopefully, it stays that way.
Ghost Stories, Cursed Possessions, The Basano Vase. I'm Jesse Wilkins. I'm joined by Rob Coakley. Sorry. What's up, Rob?
I am really excited about this episode because it took 6 months, but we finally got full snarky skeptic Dave talking throughout one of these episodes.
And we're also joined by cocky, snarky Dave. What's up, Dave?
What's up? And to be fair, I actually really like this story, and I have my skeptical thoughts about it, and we can get into that. But I took my frustrations of exactly 0 names being tied. There's not a single name in this entire story, and it was insanely frustrating. I was like, I'm just gonna run with this fun little angle. I don't think that it discredits it a little bit, but not enough to not cover it or not talk about it.
It's a cursed possession that killed a bunch of people without a name that is gone. It's supposedly buried somewhere in Italy. And so it's entirely based on legend, but coverable nonetheless. And we have the one and only expert on the Basano Vase. Our guest for the week is once again the one and only Captain McSlugs. Everyone, welcome Captain McSlugs into the stream with a giant applause. Welcome in, Andrew.
We did it.
We did it. I wasn't sure if we were going to do it or not because I feel like clapping next to a microphone is very dangerous.
Wait, so I just want to get back to this because where are you on this? Because I was listening to you watching this episode dying because I'm sitting there and Dave's like, this stupid vase without this stupid name and then this stupid guy.
The vase has a name. Well, it's called the Basano Vase.
Oh, sorry.
And maybe
the one thing that has a name in this entire thing.
I know. Maybe the Basano Vase was really just angry at people without names and killed all of them. That could be it. There's a theory.
But really, like, do you think there's any credence to this story at all? Like, because it felt. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else so it's hard to explain because this is you guys just experienced most of full snark skeptic Dave in that episode when he starts just trying to shred everything. So that's why I loved it. And yeah, so I don't know. I enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah,
So-
I picked on the fact that there were no names in the story because it was a frustrating part of the story for me. It was like I was like, give me something, man. Like, give me, like one thing. I will say what I think is the story with this is a guy in Italy dug up this vase. I also have a theory that it's not even a vase, but we can get into that later. He dug up this ancient artifact and found the note in it. I bet there was a note in it. And he was like, whoa, this is crazy, and sold it off at the auction. And then people who bought it did end up dying one way or another, whether it's coincidence or if there might have been some sort of poison on the vase. And then once all these deaths started accumulating, then a backstory was invented. You know, that I think might be possible. Because I mean, like, if you dig up a vase, how do you know it's from the the 1400s? And how do you know it's a vase that killed? Unless the Basano Vase legend predates when it was dug up in 1988.
Also, how does it still have a legible note inside?
Right. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Exactly.
Which is why I think you're thinking it's not a vase.
No. So I guess we can tackle that now. So my theory is it's not a vase. I think that it was more likely some sort of a Dybbuk box. And somebody, we're in Italy. We're not terribly far from like the Middle East where they have jinns trapped in lamps. And, when you exorcise a demon, you bind it to some sort of container, seal it with wax, and then bury it. So if this, you put a note like, don't open this, this brings death. And then you seal it with some sort of wax top and bury it. That wax top could break down and disintegrate. I mean, wax isn't going to disintegrate, but it could break down. And when it gets dug up, and now it's just, there's nothing on it. So my theory is...
To be fair, the note supposedly did not say do not open it, which would be completely pointless if the note was inside the vase saying don't open this vase.
Yeah, right.
But apparently it just said beware, this vase
beware,
brings
this brings, this brings death. So it could have been like more of a Dybbuk box that broke open. And maybe that there was a demonic entity attached to it and started killing people.
It's completely possible. So I do wonder. So the legend had to have been around before 1988. I'm guessing it was passed down over time, and there was this legend of this vase that had since been missing. And he dug up this vase, and when he read the note, he probably figured, "Wow, this has got to be the Basano vase," due to the fact that it's a vase that brings death. So I would assume that these stories weren't created after the fact. I would assume that they were created, that it was known about, and then when he discovered it, that's when they put two and two together.
It's possible.
So for the origins of it, a lot of people think that it could have been cursed before. They think maybe it actually came from Egypt, from a tomb, and that's where it could have been cursed. Then the other idea is that the first bride who supposedly died, she was found on the floor dying, clutching the vase. She could have cursed it there. So there was the idea that she said, I'm just reading from a source online that says, in her dying breath, the bride vowed to have her revenge, and then she passed away. So whether it was already cursed or whether it was her that cursed it while she was dying, that might have been where it originated.
So if we're just going to assume all this is true, then I think it makes more sense that she was a victim of the curse rather than the cause of the curse. Because I just, you get somebody dying. Are you thinking about cursing things? Like, you thinking about hexing an object? Or are you thinking about like, oh shit, I'm dying,
Well, a lot of these cursed possessions,
this lamp, vase, whatever it is.
A lot of these cursed possessions do happen right before someone dies. So we had one where
the chair, yeah.
The chair was one. There was another one where this like old woman had cursed. I don't remember what it was, like a horse or something. Or
Rob put a hex on Dave's chair, I think, if I recall.
Rob's chair, and I want to hear about the cursed horse.
Yeah, no, actually, I think she cursed. Actually, I think she cursed the guy, saying that, and then he fell off his horse or something.
Oh,
a cursed horse.
That's in Plymouth. I remember which one you're talking about now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the witch in Plymouth that told him that he would be buried on Burial Hill like the next day or something, and after she put that curse on him, he fell off his horse and broke his neck. I didn't know where you were going with that until that's what you got there. But
I just remember it was talked about at one point. Clearly, I got the details a little bit wrong.
Yeah, it's fine. So do we think that? So what we're establishing is that this cursed item was lost for hundreds of years, and the legend had been talked about, and then this item was found, and then it continued doing what it was doing before. So we don't even know how far back it would date, because the first story we know is of the bride, and theoretically it could have been made. It could have already been killing people before her as well.
In theory, maybe somebody knew it was cursed and gave it to her. Maybe the person who gave it to her
Right.
gave it to her knowing it was cursed and would kill her.
That's a valid point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a real interesting tale. I mean, anytime you're lacking a lot of details, you get real skeptical, of course.
I will note, though, that although everybody after 1988, they continue to not have names, which I think is really weird. That's a really weird time frame to not have names on record.
Right.
Really weird. But all of their occupations were oddly specific. You know, archaeologist, doctor,
Police officer.
Yeah, police officer. Yeah, exactly. And pharmacist. You know, these are the
Names that a
occupations
4-year-old would write when he's writing a story.
Well, it's
Yeah.
just strange that they would have specific occupations, but they wouldn't have any names.
Right, and they're all occupations of people that might collect art. You know, somebody who earns more money, a doctor, archaeologist, pharmacist. You know, you aren't,
Right.
your plumber's not going around collecting ancient art. I mean, that's a generalization, but for the most part,
What do you have against plumbers?
Plumbers, send all your hate mail to Dave, please. We respect you. Me and
only
Jesse.
you can say
and
if
Andrew.
you are a plumber who has a collection of ancient artifacts, you may say, Dave, you're wrong, and here's my collection, and mail me the entire collection to prove me wrong.
That'll prove the point. You think we can figure out how to mail something?
Wow.
I don't know why. I don't know why I singled out plumber. I feel like plumber is just the go-to job when you're talking about the blue collar, the working man. Plumber's a working man.
Plumbers make plenty of money.
You're not gonna.
I'm not saying
this.
they don't make money. I'm saying they're not doctors.
Wow. They operate on pipes, Dave. That's pretty
Plumbers
much
make
the same
between
thing.
$44,000 to $75,000 per year. That is plenty of money to spend on vases.
There's no way that's accurate.
Yeah, that's right.
They definitely make a lot more than that.
That's
Maybe
those are the salary estimates in the United States.
Okay, nationwide, yeah. So you got to factor in the states that are not Massachusetts and New York City.
Go ahead, start tossing some names out there of states that you don't like, Dave.
It's not that I don't like. It's
in
obviously
Massachusetts they make
things
between
cost
48,000 and 82,000.
I don't
No,
think
that's
accurate.
not accurate.
According to ZipRecruiter and Salary.com, I think Salary.com would know. Okay.
You would think so, but they don't. I can tell you what a plumber makes. They make about 137 grand a year, roughly.
That sounds a lot more.
That sounds like
accurate.
you could buy a lot more vases than I originally thought.
Mm.
Salary.com doesn't think that they could get that many vases, but Rob does.
Salary.com should pay us for a sponsorship right now, because we are saying their name entirely too much.
Too much.
I agree.
Too
So,
much.
so now that Dave is done trashing plumbers and Jesse doesn't know how to look up salaries,
It is not trashing a plumber to point out that a doctor earns more than a plumber.
that's not what we're arguing. You were saying that plumbers don't have any taste, is what you were going with. Jesse, please don't.
All right, I'm sorry. For those audio listeners, I pulled up the actual data and information on salaries by plumbers. Any plumbers that are listening, we do apologize.
That Dave thinks that you don't like art just seems like a real poor generalization.
Let's move on.
Let's flush that conversation away.
Let's just move on from that one.
Rob, you usually don't join us on the puns.
I know. I
Here you
know.
are.
I have high class like plumbers.
Exactly.
That's right. We love them.
Anyways, back to this haunted vase. So you said that the one person that does have a name is the one that dug it up.
Nope. I said he's the one person who didn't die. Well, one of the people who didn't die.
Oh, I
that
thought
came
you
in
said-
contact with it.
So I guess, like, if we know that it was sold at auction, right? Shouldn't this auction have records? Shouldn't somebody have been able to go back to this auction house or Was this some sort of like, I know it's 1988, but at that point I would assume that they're keeping records on auctions, right?
I would imagine. Well, they're definitely keeping records as the deaths, right? All of the
Right.
deaths should be on record somewhere. Like this information should be verifiable.
Yeah, but I mean, my counter to the death thing is it's not going to be like, here's Reginald who died of a mysterious curse put on him by a vase.
But
Like
someone's got to know these people, and someone's got to know this story. And somebody who's a relative, like maybe the guy who threw the vase out the window, could be like, "Yeah, that was me, and that was Tony who died." You know, like
The perfect Italian name. Yeah.
yeah,
Mario, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah,
it was
Mario.
It's crazy how specific a lot of these details get where they just ignore the name. Like we have the name Carabinieri was the town, I guess, in Italy. That was where the police officer was. The Polizia di Stato. I think that's just state police. Now this website's just getting fancy.
We're going to continue reading
There-
from the story. What
there's-
is going on there?
I'm just looking for a name, and I
There's no
understand
names.
why Dave
I
is
promise you
frustrated.
there's no names.
There's so many details on this, but no names. So it's basically, it comes down to, do you believe in the legends or do you not? And where I have no problem believing in the legends with the wife, and maybe the fact that it came from Egypt originally and the deaths that were tied to it before it was lost to time. What I do have a problem with is in 1988, this thing gets recovered and we have occupations, we have cities, we have locations, we have police officers, and this item being sold at auction, and we still have no names. The names is the biggest part of this that drives me nuts. And I know we were just talking about it, but that's where I start to doubt, or at least I doubt the 1988 vase being the legitimate Basano vase. That's where I have my
also a
doubts.
great-
To date, we have no names and no vase.
And no vase.
Yeah. it's
So
coming on.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
going to
no
go with
vase.
legend on this one.
Well, of course, no. I'm saying it's just we know that it's mostly legend. It's just, are you going to believe the legend, or you have no other option because there's nothing here, and it's just it loses credibility to me when it's recently recovered and we still have nothing.
It recently vanished again.
Yeah.
And no one knows where it is again. So I think that's a great theory, is that, maybe there is a legendary Basano vase that was around that was lost to time. This guy goes and he digs up a vase with a note in it that he creates, and, looking for clout or money or whatever, sells it knowing that people will buy into it.
I think I like that theory because it's not like the story with the Hope Diamond, where the Hope Diamond was lost for a century or something like that and then just found one day.
Right, but that's also like a verifiable item.
The
It's in a
Hope
museum
Diamond.
now, so it still exists.
Because that's going to be the Hope Diamond.
Yeah.
You don't know
Well-
if this vase is the one that came from the legend before.
The only counter to my own point is now we're still talking about deaths associated with it afterwards. So I don't know. It feels sketchy, and I'm usually the one that believes in this stuff. I like the legend. It's a great legend overall.
It's a scary one. I mean, if it's real,
Yeah.
it's one of the scarier cursed objects. Everybody who died from it died within 3 months, which is, and all of them are untimely. These are people in their 20s and 30s, so it's not like killed off a bunch of elderly people. It was like people who shouldn't be dying at that age.
Right, untimely.
Yeah.
It
Anyone else?
weighed approximately 4 pounds.
How do they know? Oh, because of the auction house, right? So where are they getting the weight from?
I don't know.
Oh my God, it's so frustrating.
Isn't it? Yeah. Thanks, Dave, for pissing us all off.
It gives you this information. It's like, well, where are you getting the information? Like, I don't know. Somebody without a name gave it to me.
The other website. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, it's definitely a cool story. Definitely a very cool legend. The one picture that every website has of it, is that an actual picture of the vase?
Allegedly, it's the one they found in 1980. 88.
Okay, so that's one that they actually found.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, at least
okay.
they have that picture. That's what I'm looking for.
It looks like it's ripped from a newspaper. I would like to find the original newspaper clipping because maybe that has some damn names on it.
yeah,
We'll
right.
have to dive a little more into it. Although I'm sure you did your due diligence and
Yeah, the names aren't there, and it's very frustrating. And I wasn't trying to dog on the story when I'm like, how am I going to tell this story with no names? Like, this is the only way I could think of to do it.
Oh, like real skeptic Dave was coming out in that. I don't know if you meant to do it, but it was a joy to watch. It was a joy to watch Skeptic Dave work, to be honest.
I'm happy to make you happy.
yeah,
So
it is.
if you, a listener, knows where the Basano Vase is or have any information, please share it with us because I would like to know more so that I am not overly frustrated. Skeptic Dave just needs a name. Just at least one name and he'll be happy.
Name. Give me the name of the cop.
Yeah. Just give him the name of the cop and we'll
Auction
be
house. If it was
name
actually
of the
sold at auction. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
Where did the name of the vase come from?
A legend.
Well,
I would assume it was based off the previous legend, and then the guy who found it was like, "This is the Basano vase."
Yes.
That's what I would assume.
Very
Are you
seductively.
going to imply that the guy who found it might have named it after himself?
That's what I was thinking.
Mm.
Mm.
It'd be hard to sell that it was a, 5-century-old.
However,
if it's named
I mean,
after
but he
if
did
I was
sell-
like, hey, I got the Dave Wilkins vase here from 1480.
Or maybe he's like, hey, I have that vase that has no name that belonged to all those other people that didn't have
Oh
a
my
name,
God.
and now it has a name.
Oh yeah.
If something else doesn't have a name, I'm going to lose my mind. This did
A
bring up a
museum.
great thing, though, that we should cover in the future. And this might give me or one of you guys an idea. You're talking about Egypt. How have we not done a cursed possession on King Tut's tomb?
Definitely a
go.
future episode. Yep, that
I
was a big
mean,
one.
But is that so? Would we count that as a possession? Because it's technically,
It's his possession.
I guess it's his possession.
Or it was at one time.
Cursed curse. Yeah.
So that might be a good one to do as well. I don't know if people want that. Let us know. We'll cover that on a future cursed possessions episode. Which I will never get the name right. I created it and I don't remember if it's cursed possessions or cursed objects.
It's cursed possessions.
I
Yeah,
think we've ran with cursed possessions.
Yeah.
But we've definitely said cursed objects plenty. But that's okay. That's all right.
So we did a story of things that had no name, and the show actually has two. So
Hey,
balance.
we make up for
Balance.
it. All right, let's do a little round table here. We'll start with our guest, Captain McSlugs. Andrew, do you think this story has any credibility to it?
No.
None?
No, I think it's a cool legend, but that's about it. I mean, we
Zero?
don't.
All those post 1988 occupations.
No, we have no names and no vase, so it's a legend.
Fair enough.
Yep, Rob.
I have trouble believing any of it. Although I do like the legend, and I'm going to say pre-1988 is real because I'm going to assume that story was going around, and I'm going to say post-1988 is fake. How about that?
I pretty much stand the same. I mean, maybe we can hire a PI to go through and get some names tied. I mean, again, if it was sold in an auction, that should be there. If it was thrown at a police officer, there should be a police report. There should be some sort of documentation at least to this stuff. And if it was posted in the newspaper, unless it was just another newspaper that's posting the same stuff that we've been reading on every single one of these websites, which is a bunch of no-name lore, then that's not going to help. But if someone come up with some names, then I'll add credibility to it. For now, I will lean heavily on the no side, but I think that the history is fun. Dave?
Yeah, so I also have a hard time giving this any credibility with the lack of names, not only just names of people, but names of museums, names of police departments. Although, Jesse, you mentioned the town, but names of the disease. There's nothing there. But I also think that it could have been something that was dug up in 1988. Everyone who possessed it died, and then they made up the backstory. So I'd kind of go opposite to Rob, that I think the legend might have been concocted after the vase was found.
That's an interesting one. And then the other point I want to touch on, which is a good point that you brought up, was the fact that it was made out of silver, and usually that does the opposite of what it's doing, which is
Right. Usually
Just an interesting point.
benevolent.
I just want to bring up the point that Dave hates plumbers again. I just want to have that on record one more time.
We talked about that plenty. Anyways, we'll be back on Tuesday with
Imagine if
another
it was a
episode.
copper vase.
Oh, that would be, well, it is very evasive.
Evasive.
We'll end the show there. That's going to do it. I want to thank Captain McSlugs. You can follow him on TikTok. If you like accordion music and good times, then go follow Captain McSlugs there. And yeah, that'll pretty much do it. We'll be back on Tuesday with a brand new episode, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. If you haven't already, swing by iTunes, drop us a little 5-star review, or if you're feeling fancy and you want to join us on Patreon, come be a patron and you can earn some cool perks. Anything else, gentlemen?
No.
All right, then. We'll see you next time.
Peace.